job interview. And in self-introduction, I'm gonna put my situation, which is taking a leave of absence. My oh wait, I'm gonna put this here. Okay, my English class teacher said I should talk about it when something is asked. Like so I don't need to um how to say that? Like emphasize I don't need to emphasize the situation, emphasize the situation like earlier in the self-introduction, but when the interviewers ask me um how what I doing this year, or why I can be hired this year, then I'm gonna answer that question by talking about it. This page is the one my teacher created for me. In your last year of graduate school, hmm. Okay, situation. Yes, I've already finished the first grade of the master degree. I mean, grad school. The first grade of grad school. Therefore, this is the last year. This is my last year of grad school. This is my last year of school. No, this not this is. I'm in my last year of graduate school, and I'm taking a leave of absence. Um, currently I'm taking a leave of absence until next year until the March next year, and I'm expected to graduate 2 years later. I mean 2028. Graduate at in March. I'm currently expected to graduate in March 2027. In March 2020, in March of 2027. But if I'm hired, if I get hired, then I can continue. I can take another year. I can take another year of leave of I can take another year of leave of absence and graduate in March of 2028. Can work as possible as until I can work as soon as possible. I can work as soon as possible until March 2027, which is about 1 year. And I come back to Japan and go to school from April 2027 to get the degree, master degree, and I can go back to the company. I can go back to your company from April 2028. Okay, I'm gonna explain it without watching it. Um, so currently I'm the last year of the graduate school. Yes, I'm currently in the last year of graduate school. Therefore, I'm expected to graduate in 20 March of 2027. In March of 2027. But if I get hired, I'm going to take another year. I'm going to take If I get hired, I'm going to take another year of leave of absence. I'm going to take another year of leave of absence. Therefore, I'm going to graduate 2028. Graduate in March of 2028. I can take another leave of absence from the April 2027, and I can work as soon as possible until I can work as soon as possible until the March of 2027, and I go back to the grad school and get a degree, and to I can come back to your company. I can go back to your company I can go back to your company from 2020, April 2028. I can go back to your company from 2028, April 2028. Self-introduction. I can go back to your company from April 2028. Okay, once again. So when did you graduate? Currently I'm expected to graduate at graduate I'm graduate. I'm expected to currently I'm expected to graduate in the March of 2027, but if I get hired, I'm going to take if I get hired, I'm going to take another leave. I'm going to take another leave of absence, and I can work as soon as possible the a until March 2027. Until March of 2027, and I go back to Japan. I go I come back to Japan. Come back to Japan, honestly. I come back to Japan. I come back to Japan and go to grad school to hold a degree, to finish the degree, to secure the degree, to hold the degree, accomplish the study, to accomplish the degree, to accomplish degree, to hold the degree, hold the master degree, and I can go back to your company from April of 2028. From April of 2028. Yes, sure. So that is what I'm going to practice again. But I'm going back to what should I talk about? Oh, I think I was told. Mm, let me see. My English teacher was changed since the old my old teacher went back to his country. So salary and star system intro, competitive advantage, ideal fit, self-starting individual, proposed, go-getter, middle management, conflict avoidance. Great. So let me talk about um everything. Okay, introduction. My name is Han Han. I'm a grad student. I'm a grad student at Hanhan University in Japan, majoring in information technology. At university, honestly, at university, I generally learned the basic foundation of IT fields such as algorithms, networks, databases, and so on. But I spent the most of the time on game development. I created 7 or 8 gaming games in total, and 4 of them were made in team-based development. Um, and I experienced managerial roles sometimes. I experienced agile development, managerial roles, and something. And I also worked for a startup company as a something manager. Oh no, something developer. you I was developing an automating application which automates simple tasks using automation app using Next.js, TypeScript, Tailwind CSS, RESTful API. I don't know. So maybe the interviewer should be not a recruiter, IT engineer. Therefore, I don't need to say I think HTML, CSS, or something like that. So, um, yeah, I need to specify the detail of the work with the job. But to ask for front end side, I was making some news page by fetching information from the internet. I wrote some Python code. I wrote some Python code to scrape information about most Japanese companies. And I increased the instance of increase the instance that increase the instances that execute my Python code. I used AWS EC2, and I created Docker. I created Docker file. I created Docker container. I don't know how to explain that, so I need to search for it. Then I also worked on a skill or something, but it's not specific situation. For example, if I apply for a job that is front end side, then I don't need to speak the detail on like back end side, since that is not specific, and I spent a lot of time. Like I didn't. It sounds like I spent a lot of time on it. Then the front end side is like my knowledge on front end side sounds shallow maybe because I spend a lot of time on back ends. So yeah, so it depends on the company I'm looking for. I'm applying for. So, so let's talk about what is my strength. My strength is the way I communicate with people. No, I don't use that. I've experienced. I was always, I was often struggling. Hmm? I often struggle with my teammates, um, breaking time or breaking deadline or um, reporting me progress that is not obvious, hard to understand, and so I learned some spirits that managers have. So when I am not a manager, I would try not to bother them by being punctual and report my progress not ambiguously, easy to understand clearly. So this is one of my strength. This is my strength. This is my strength, and my weak. As for my weakness, that I think that is my over concentration. Um, over concentration. When I was, um, I think my biggest weakness is my over concentration. For example, when I started learning Next.js, I spent the most of the time of the day, like 9 or 10 hours per day, and forget that time and didn't do any other stuffs I needed to do, and just focus on it. It was really unhealthy. Therefore, that is so unhealthy. Therefore I've been trying to fix it by setting timer and stop studying whenever it alarms. That's it. That is my solution. That is my current solution. So what were you doing this year? Yes, sure. In the beginning of this year, I was working for non-IT company, creating some Python application, and I quit the job in April and started job hunting. Started preparing for job hunting, and I took two job interview. Um, Mm, I had I had two in May and June I had two interview in total because my previous coworker introduced my skill to Japanese company that is based on the United that is that are based on United States. So I had two interviews in English, but I my since my English was really bad, I failed, and I decided to focus on learning English first. And I spent um but so I spent around 3 months learning English, and uh, I came to naturally understand English. Um, I, I, I'm now good at listening. Therefore, I resumed job hunting, and like I resumed job hunting. Yes, I was continuing. Um, what I was continuing was competitive programming. Mm. I didn't want to move the level, therefore something something. And I started learning IT terminologies in order to learn terminologies. In order to learn terminologies like plural terminology. Okay, uncountable different systems and collection terminology. Okay, so in order to learn terminology, I restarted learning ID, the ID fields that I've already known. That I've already known. So I know 20% of them in English. I think I can yes, so I can talk about technology stuffs in English. You don't say that. That's like I'm proud of it. Um, what do you see yourself in 5 years? So in 5 years, um, I mean, in three or 4 years, I want to experience a lot of programming stuffs since I like coding and I want to be a good programmer first. But eventually, I mean, in 5 years, I want to start experiencing the middle managerial position, middle manager, middle manager's role, middle manager role, middle manager's role, middle manager's role. Since I'd like to, since I aspire to understand and supervise and understand ongoing projects. So my ideal person in 5 years is someone who I can consult with. Someone who is consulted by a junior engineer, junior developer. So yes, respected. I don't know. Yes, so supervise and understand ongoing projects. Describe yourself when conflicting. Sure. When I see people conflicting, when I see people conflicting, I will try to keep a neutral. I try to keep a neutral position. Stay in a. I try to keep a neutral position. Keep a position. Hold a position. No. Keeps the machine on course. Hmm. No. Neutral position. I don't know. It's if it's natural. But when I see people conflicting, I would try to keep a neutral position. I have one experience. I have one team development experience where one teammate was provocative to the others, therefore the other teammates were struggling with communicating with him. So I invited him to have lunch together and try to figure out the way he communicates. And I found out that the only problem was the way he communicates, and he wasn't trying to offend people. Therefore, I told the facts to the other people, the other teammates, and have short conversation um, with everyone, short conversation with all the members, just like an ice break. And I kind of I would try to mediate between them. I would try to mediate between them. I would try to mediate between them by listening to their listening to um by finding the core problem. Listen to um I would try to mediate between them by listening to their emotions or something in order to find the core problem. I have one experience. Core problem. I have one experience where one of my teammates, was provocative to the others, and the others were struggling with communicating with him. So I invited him to have lunch together and try to figure out what is the problem. And I've eventually found out that the only problem was the way he communicates, and he didn't try to offend people. So I told the fact to the other members and had a short conversation, had a small conversation, had a small meeting with the other members, and I just like an ice break, and I kind of translate what he tries to say, what he wants to say, what he actually wants to say, and um, I try to be the no, buffer, buffer, a person or thing that prevents incompatible or antagonistic people, things from coming into contact with or harming each other. Translate is like the rude. Translate. I'm sorry if it's rude. I kind of translate his emotion. Hmm. I guess he said hmm something. I was kind of a buffer between them, and they understood. Eventually, they understood what he actually thought, and the teammates eventually understood what he thought, and we came to successfully communicate with each other throughout the project. Yes, throughout the project. So I would be neutral position. I would try to mediate between them. So I would try to mediate between them, between conflicting people. So when I get conflicted, I actually don't often get conflicted. Uh, I don't often conflict with people. Get conflicted. Mm, conflict. conflict with something. Or if I have a core, I can't compromise. Compromise. But it doesn't happen often, so if someone has a strong opinion and I can follow it, I would follow it. But if someone has a strong opinion but it completely seems and it appears to be wrong, then appears to be wrong, then I would only try to I would only tell them the objective fact. I don't I I never mix any emotion to it and listen to them. And logically, if I am wrong, I would compromise. It is if I am involved in that situation, I try to have an objective perspective, but it is hard sometimes. It can be um inevitably people can be inevitably emotional. Then therefore, I would call someone else. Call I would call someone else, different person, and try to ask them and ask them for a third perspective. What's that? Objective opinion. Objective opinion. Yes, but not one person. Call someone else. I would try to call someone else, and if the person, if he's a, I would say he, I would say he. If he is a, I would say he. If that person, I would say he. I would say, let's say he or him, he, him, they, them. The pronouns are pronouns. Hmm. Pronouns. Let's say pronouns are he and him. Um, when he is at a higher position than me, and I don't understand. Like I'm not sure I understand completely. Then I would follow what he's saying. But when if I get involved in the confliction, like I conflict with another person, then I will call someone else to ask for to ask them for so that we can ask them for objective perspective. And if the third person says wrong, I'm wrong. If I compromise. um, how strong, how strongly I believe my uh, when conflicting. It depends on how strongly I believe it is true. How strong. It depends on how strongly I believe my opinions is true. My opinion is true. Um, for example, if I'm not strongly, but to a certain extent, believe I'm true and he's wrong, he or she is wrong, then the other person is wrong, then I will call one different person, and ask them for like opinion, objective opinion. But I strongly believe that I'm true. Then I call three or four, 3 or 5 people, and just take a vote. Just take votes. It's like I think confliction is, but it's like it's not good sometimes. Call a person who we can convince by, who can convince us, who can convince us. If there's not such a person, then if we have time, I will try to make it logical. But I think confliction happens when there's no logic. Confliction happens. I think confliction doesn't happen logical on logic. Confliction doesn't happen on logic. It's like it happens. The two people's experiences conflict. Two people's different experiences conflict. So I would spend time as much as possible to understand what he is saying, understand the person is what the person is saying, they are saying, to understand what they are saying, and to give my express my opinion. But I'm not a stubborn. but I'm not so stubborn. Mm. So if it's not crucial, so if it's not crucial to so if it's not crucial and we have no time, we have little time, then I would compromise and understand it later. Try to understand it later or discuss it later. Discuss it. Discuss it later with a person. So it depends on the emergency and importance. Conflicts in emergency. 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 Hmm? Urgent. Emergence. What? How urgent? How important? Urgent. Urgent. How urgent? How urgent? Urgent. How urgent it is. Important, seriousness, need, critically. Emergency. Emergent. So it depends on how how important. Emergent. Emergent. What? How urgent? How urgent? Emergency is urgent action, urgent thing. How urgent? How urgent and how important? if it's if it's urgent and unimportant, then I would follow what is and he has a strong opinion. Um I would follow them and understand it, discuss it later. But if it's important thing and we've got a lot of time, if it's important, we've got a lot of time, then if we have a lot of time, then I would try to spend time as much as possible to convince him or understand him. And if it's important and we don't have time, then I would take a vote. I would call someone else who can convince us. A person or people who can convince us. Hmm. Not urgent, but urgent and importance. Follow him and discuss it later. Mm, and urgent is not and not important. Not urgent. Important. Not urgent. If it's not urgent, I would spend not urgent. If it's not urgent, I would try to spend time as much as possible. Call a person of people who can convince us. Yes, I would try to convince that person because I think he or she is wrong. But in this situation, I think I cannot convince him. I think this case includes the time when I cannot convince him. Therefore, I would call a person who can convince him or me, and him or me, him and me, and yes, my ideal person is that kind of person. So let's see how much time I spent. Oh, I didn't set timer. Okay, great. So I'm gonna take a rest, and I need to like make another strategy on interview practice because it takes a lot of time on each detail questions, but um, I often, yeah, I often forget what I was trying to say. But it's getting better though. So for example, as for competitive programming, I cannot say, but I think it's also getting better. I just didn't, just haven't practiced it, um, all the time, and I'm just afraid of like practicing it again because I must forget it. But it's okay. Remembering again, like remembering again makes my memory more stronger. Solidify my memory. Reinforce my memory. Solidify, solidify. Yeah, solidify my memory. So yeah, so remembering again confirms I can remember it easily. I don't know. Great. So let's finish it.